I wake up every minute with the fever dreams. I put the mind to a limit where it needs to be. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns out with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky. You know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby. And if you ain't with me, it's you lost, see. I got my mind on the facts, I'm a python, grab what I like real fast. Choke until I have everything I attack, everything that I lack, everything that I want, and I see, matter of fact.
I'm my own worst enemy. Only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny. Deep up in my mind I manifest it. Every morning I wake up obsessed and
What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. So this is going to be part 2 of the airbrush panel that we're doing, this huge panel. So part 1, if you haven't watched it yet, basically what we do is just map everything in, get that ground layer in to lock in the image, and that way we can work off of it. So I've already kind of went ahead, and what I'm doing now for the part 2 is the second layer. So every time I'm adding a layer on top of each layer. And each layer is going to have a certain depth to it. By the time you get done with it, it's going to almost look three-dimensional. It's not going to be like a hyper-realistic image, but I want it to be as real as possible. So that's why you want to do your layers accordingly. And then that, pretty much what I do is go from, even though I went from white, since we're working on a white or a black panel, I want to put white down first to get the image locked in. Normally, if I'm working on a light panel, I'll work from dark to light. And that pretty much means I'm just taking the darkest color and I'm working all the way back to light color. Which means that pretty much the white highlights would be last. So this is just how I work it. I've been to many classes, they do it all different ways. Everybody does it differently. This way just works for me personally. And I've taken things that I've liked and didn't like, and I've taken the things that I liked and I kind of incorporated to what I do today. So, like I said, I already went ahead and kind of worked some of this area up here. Basically what I'm doing is I'm pretty much just pushing everything back. And what I mean by that is I've made up a custom kind of like a candy-ish color with black and a blue, with straight up blue and just straight black. I've also thrown some transneb into it, and I've over-reduced the heck out of it. That way I'm not just putting a solid color on there and covering up everything that I did. It kind of gives it the its own layers where I can layer and layer and layer as many times as I want before it goes totally black or blue. So pretty much what I did was pretty much just put some reducer in, transnib, a little bit of black, and a little bit of blue, probably more blue than black because of the way I want this image to come out. I'm not totally copying the printed image. I'm kind of making it my own style, my own coloring and things like that. So I've gone over with it. I'll kind of show you guys here up close. As you can see from everything else, these little 3 guys, these devil guys up here, Skullish dudes, I've already went ahead and I pushed them back to where I want them. As you can tell, it's a little bit different. It's hard to see right now with everything else, but you can tell that I've already pretty much pushed these guys back as far as I can without actually getting them totally blacked out. And what I'm doing is I'm just going in here and I'm adding subtle, I don't know if you guys can see this, but you can see kind of subtle detail in these images. Now it's not something you're probably going to see at the end, but some of this stuff's going to come through the image at the very last point. And that's what I'm doing is I'm adding these layers to build this up. That way each layer goes on top of each other and it creates the image as you go. And what I've done was I pretty much just went around, got all my dark areas that I want, looking at the reference, and pretty much punched those back. And then what I did is pretty much just sprayed this whole area with this overdosed custom candy, if you want to call it that I've made up to kind of make these guys, it's kind of got like a darkish bluish green to them, which is kind of what I want, because I want this thing to be kind of like a darkish, bluish, greenish image altogether once I'm done with it. Now obviously her face is going to be different, it's not going to be that bluish green, but I'm going to go over this whole image and do this, and that way everything's pretty much one thing locked in. And then what I can do after that is I can actually go and take this color and kind of brighten it and do layers on top of layers on top of layers until we get back to that final white, to where we're just using straight up white and actually blasting the areas that are going to be our highlights to really pop this thing out. So I kind of go over what I did. I know you guys didn't see me do the building or anything like that, so pretty much what I did was, like I said, I went ahead and I just mapped all this out. I followed my lines, followed the image. I put some textures in there. You can see in the building where it's got some textures going around in here, because I want this stuff to kind of pop out on each layer that I do. It makes it more realistic. It makes it more, I guess, real, if you want to call it that. So by the time you get done with this thing, it looks like a really badass picture. And even the skulls down at the bottom, even these guys, I've got some texture in them. The book's got some texture in it. And then what I did lastly is I've got a textured stencil I made, and I pretty much went ahead and just kind of fuzzed in the open black spaces, just to make this piece all one unique piece and kind of tie it all together. I'll give you guys a little bit closer look up close what I'm talking about. So you can see the kind of the textures in the building area, little things like that. Hopefully it's picking up on the camera. But on the outside perimeter, I kind of did this stonish look, and it kind of fades out into the original black panel. And I kind of did on the brim of everything on the outside edges to kind of really tie this piece all together once it's finally done and cleared. This little subtle stuff will just, it'll make the picture all one unique picture and tie everything together. So I'll also push this stuff back, and then I'll add different layers on top of it as well to kind of give it that pop that it needs. But it's coming along really well. I'm happy with it so far, so we're going to keep pushing forward and get this thing knocked out. Like I said, here's some of the stuff that I've used. Just regular straight black, just some good old slow reducer, and I made this as like my concoction that I've got for this right here. And pretty much what I did there is, like I said, I added a reducer to my gun, and then Transneb, which is kind of like a base maker from House of Color. They use that to make their candies, and I just added a little bit of that into my reducer before I added the little bit of black. And this is the blue that I use, the Strato blue, and it don't take much, especially with black. Black overpowers everything, and that's one thing I want to bring up to this. A lot of people don't understand why not just use black and go back in, because black, for one, when you use black over white, if you're using like a pure white like this is, straight black, it kind of turns it like a tannish color, and it just overpowers it. And unless you're going for that look, you know, if somebody says, hey, I want like a tannish brown picture at the end of it, it kind of gives it muddies it up a lot, I think. So what we do as artists is we either add like a blue in it, or a green in it, or like, you know, a yellow in it or something to kind of contrast and eat that black and dye that black down a little bit, because black is way too powerful. If I would just come in here and use black, it would pretty much just eliminate everything, and we'd be starting from scratch all over. So like I said, the key to this is layering everything. You want to layer. You know, you can't, there's very few artists that can start and just start doing an image, and you know, they only do one layer throughout the whole thing and it come out looking amazing. And kudos to them, but like, This is the way I do it. This is the way that a lot of people do it. It's layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit of how I do this. We're going to get all these guys knocked down, even the image of the woman. We're going to do this all in this custom candy color, this bluish green color here that we've done up. We're going to do the whole image in that. So you're going to see me go through, and I'm going to go through and bring out, knock these dark areas back, and I'm going to just blast that white all over until I get everything one solid, unique picture. Get you guys set up here on the tripod. So what I've been using is these little CNC little stencils, or whatever you want to call these things. They're really thin, like mylar plastic, great for airbrushing. This is what I use to get all my textures in these areas. But it don't take much, just a little bit of this stuff goes a long ways. And I've got multiple, I've probably got 20 different of these, and I just use wherever I think I want them. I just use little areas and I'll pick out everything throughout the image. So we're going to start on this little guy here, and we're just going to punch out these areas, the dark areas. And as you can see, it's not really killing it. It's kind of just soaking against that black that's already pretty much black, that's got some overspray in there from the white that we did. So this is a great way to learn how to build. Because like I said, if you take this and just use straight black, you're going to kill all that white and all that detail that you put in there before. And I'll go around here and I'll pick some of these areas that I like. Like I said, a lot of it don't take much. Create little things like that, and we can kind of push it back a little bit. And another thing is yeah, you'll see the chalk lines still that we created from when we first sketched this onto here and transferred it. I'm not really worried about that. Yeah, I could have wiped it off already and just started doing this, but I'm going to use this stuff to my advantage to keep everything in track and coordinates and everything and the right place, if you will. And then at the end of it, pretty much most of it's going to be covered with all the layers we'll be doing. But at the end of it, if I see any, and I can take some waterborne cleaner and it'll come right off. So I'm not too worried about it right now. I'm kind of using it to my advantage. And every once in a while I'll stop and I'll look at my image that I've got up over here on the wall. Maybe this guy's got something up here on his hand that make it look a little bit deteriorated. And just little things like that will help you punch out those really small details that everybody's like, man, how'd you do that? They'll be asking for years and months until they understand. And I'm really not being really too picky or too careful in this area. This stage is pretty much just to get everything one solid color that you want to start with, and then we can start layering everything, like I said, and really punching this thing out. So I'm being a little bit careful where I put this, that way I can knock these darks back, but everything's gonna get blasted this color, so it's gonna be just a layering process. I'm pretty much really just getting this thing to where it's one solid color to work from. So I kind of like that, the way it looks. I might be able to push this stuff back a little bit further. And we can start. So when you're fogging this stuff in here, when you start fogging this in here, if you're using a true candy against black, you don't have to worry about the overspray, because this color will actually melt into the black when you clear it. Now, one thing I didn't tell you guys about this panel is, yes, it appears to be black, but I've actually added some pearl and some aluminum into this black just a little bit. That way when I clear this, it's going to shine, it's going to get a little bit of sparkle, like there's a little bit of metallic in it. So I do have to be somewhat careful when I'm doing this, but if you're doing against a straight black panel with the true candy, everything will pretty much just melt in, and it's like it's not even there. Kind of liking how this is coming out. It's like a zombie with that bluish green that I got going on here. It's like a zombie hand. And at the end of this, when I get all of this, pretty much this state, I'm gonna go back through and just fog everything back and make it lock everything in as one. So we're gonna move up to this guy right now. Turn down my air pressure. And you'll see me messing with my air pressure a lot. I've got this stuff so reduced that a little bit of air pressure is all it takes. It don't take much. And if for some reason I got this thing on full blast and blasting this paint, you'll kind of see it kind of like spread itself. It's almost like a bubble. It's because it's got too much air pressure against how much you've got the paint reduced. So you always turn it down if you start to have that issue of your paint just spraying on there and bubbling and not really covering. It means you got to over reduce. So, and I do that just because with lower air pressure and over reducing the paints, it allows me to do really fine detail. I can really get in there and get those really small areas. When I'm doing little tiny little areas like this, I can get in there, lower my air pressure, and get these super fine lines that I need. See, I'll just push that back. It almost makes it look like it's realistic right now. Just the way that it's shaded. But we're only on the second step. Get in here with these eye sockets. Get that nose pushed back. See, it just did it right there. And I've got this thing turned down a lot. Maybe I want to get some textures. Let me grab another one. This one's kind of wicked. So I want to get some textures around this eye socket here. And just like something like that. It almost looks like his eye socket's broken off and crumbling. Did it again. Too much paint at once in one area and too much air pressure, so we'll back off. Solvent dries pretty quick, solvent paint, so you don't have to worry about too much, but if you're using like a waterborne paint, you kind of gotta watch it, because you'll be thinking you can go back in and touch it really quick and you won't be able to, because it won't dry as fast. A little bit there, push this stuff back. I can even do his nose like that if I pick an area on here and I can get it to where I like it. And just a little bit of detail like that goes a long way. You don't need to really blast a lot. Maybe up around this horn area. He's got some textures around his horns. Go in there and you just texture it out a little bit. Now, this guy's got like a little horn this way. I don't know. I didn't really do this. I didn't really do this horn right here last when I was doing the white. So that'll be an area I'll have to fix, or I'll just make it my own. And that's one good thing. If you understand your image and understand what the item or the picture that you're doing or the area, like this is kind of like a skull demon, so if you know what really skulls or demons or anything like that, what you want it to look like, you can pretty much make it anything you want, as long as you got that understanding, and you got the understanding of how to shade and draw and get things to look a certain way. You don't have to use the image directly as it is. You can always go in and just manipulate it. And that's one thing cool that I like about doing these dark, sinister pictures, is they've got a lot of gross stuff, things that they got a lot of stuff that you really don't see a normal, it's not really seen out in reality, so you can make it whatever you want. And that's why I like doing this stuff, is because most of it is made up. I ain't gonna lie. Even though I've got a reference picture of how it should be, you can still make up a lot of it if you got that understanding how things work. If you got that artistic side where you know how shading is on it in certain areas, where the light's hitting, where the dark areas are, you can go and just do what you want and have a blast with it. So I like the way this is shaping up. So this time, I'm gonna do this right here. This socket right here, the bottom socket of his eye has got some texture that I kind of want to put in there. See that? It just added a little bit of texture. You might not be able to see on the camera, but right now, with my two eyes and how close I am with this, it definitely makes it look like it's popping out. And see, that wasn't even in the picture. I just added that. Just a little bit of detail. Alright, I like how that is. Maybe there's some little bit of detail down here that I'll hit. And then I'll fog it in. There's another blowout right there. That's fine. We can work with it. By the time we're done with this picture, you're not going to see any of that. So I'm going to kind of get this stuff to get kicked back a little bit more. And it may seem like I'm putting a lot on here, and I kind of am because of how reduced I've got this, but that's just part of it. So we're gonna go up here to this guy right here. He's kind of peeking over his shoulder a little bit. There's not much there to punch out, so this will be pretty quick. He's got some stuff on his head right there. And his hands are kind of crumbling down there at the bottom of it, so I'm going to make it look like they're kind of falling apart on him. Blast this guy back. I like how that looks. And what I'm thinking I'll probably do is when I get everything this color, I'll probably put some more black in my mixture and go over everything once more just to push it back even further, make a little bit more so we can start adding those layers up. There's a certain way I want this to look. And once you start doing this stuff, or if you already are, there's You can always do different colors. You know, you might, if you wanted to do all blue, you can do it all blue. You really could. Some people might have been like, all right, I'm fine with it right now, and you can put a candy over it and candy all this and then clear it and be done with it. We're going to move down here. And get these hands. Let's put some textures in here. Move down to this arm right here. Some of these deep pockets, like in his arm and things like that, adding this texture in there to make it look like it's kind of like eaten away. Kind of same thing idea that I did with their faces. Makes it more believable that these are actually bones. And Set you guys back a little bit. I'm gonna start just working this whole area. Now after doing all these hands and everything, I'm gonna add just a little bit of black into this. I don't take much. A few drops. I want it to get kind of a different, like a little bit thicker than when I have it. And then give these guys, push these guys a little bit back, and then I'm gonna start doing all this, the women and the skulls and the building. Then we'll push them back as well. Alright, I like how those are looking. They're pushed back far enough. I can start on the woman. I'm probably going to start down here at the skulls first and just work my way up. Make sure you guys can see that image. And right now, I'm going really fast. I'm not really trying to add much detail to it. It kind of is in some ways with the blacks. It's really blacken those areas out first. That's kind of why I like using these colors, making them as a candy rather than just a base coat, because it would just cover it. Alright, so the skulls, all the bones. Get all these guys pushed back. Well, I'm liking how that looks. So we move up to her. And the woman part, I'm not really trying to do as much detail little things that I did in these arms and these skulls and everything. Because the detail's pretty much there that I want, besides her face. We'll start working on that as we start adding layers to make it more realistic in her. So in these areas, I'm pretty much just going to go through and just start blasting color, just because a lot of the detail is already there. I don't need to go in and actually knock anything back as far as the blackness goes. Alright, so now I've pretty much got everything pushed back as far as the images, different images go. Now I'm going to go through and do the whole thing even darker to push it even further back. You might think it looks cool now. You know, this is going to cover up a lot of stuff being so dark, but I'm trying to get it to where you can actually start layering these different colors in here and just start layering the shades up. All right. So I'm pretty happy with it right now, with how far back it's pushed. I'm going to tell you guys some stuff here real quick. A lot of you might be wondering, well, why didn't you just use like your spray gun and go through and just do the whole thing? When you do that, you can do that if you're looking for a certain effect, or if you want it all to be exactly one solid, you know, shade of candy or whatever. With the airbrush, so with the airbrush, I've got a lot more control over where I put it, and that's why I do it that way. You know, it's a lot of paint, especially if you're doing a large area. If I was doing a really, really large area, I probably would just use my HPLP, but with this, it works about perfect for me. Now this is going to be the very back. You know, it's going to be the furthest away when we get this panel done. So we're going to start adding layers on top of this. Before I do all that though, I'm going to go through with just some black, some over-reduced black, kind of dye it down a lot, then go back through and get these really dark areas that we might have hit with this candy and kind of bring those areas back to where we need them to be. And then we can start layering those lighter colors and just work our way towards the brightest, which is straight white for those highlights. So give you guys a little bit of look at it, show you guys what it looks like. You know, we punched this thing back a lot. It's got that grayish, greenish, bluish look to it, which is kind of what I wanted. And then this point forward, we're just going to be layering those and making them lighter, 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 lighter. So that's going to be it for part 2. Like I said, I'm going to go back through with the black and just kind of hit some areas. I'm going to let this sit here and dry for a minute though. It is pretty tacky in some areas as we just put a lot on. So, but that's it. If you guys have any questions, comments, tag them below or message me on Instagram or Facebook. I'll be glad to answer them. But from here on out, we're going to start making this thing look realistic. So, until next time.